So yeah, I'm going to go through how to work smarter with PPC in this turbulent landscape that we have. Obviously, no one enjoys wasting money. I don't think there'll be anyone that enjoys wasting money on PPC. But it's not a new thing. Obviously, it seems like as if it might be a new thing because of the way the climate is at the moment, because a lot of things have changed recently, like what happened in 2020, and then the current situation of the economy, and also PMAX, which has totally changed the game for PPC. So people do feel like they're wasting a lot more money now than they ever did before. But it's not actually a new thing on PPC. So I've been doing PPC for more than 15 years now, and it's always been the case where people have been spending a chunk of their money on things that they should not be spending money on. And it tends to be that people don't actually pick up on this until the numbers get so bad that it becomes a bigger problem. But if you keep on top of it from the beginning, it's not really something that's very hard to actually control. So what we'll do is we'll go through a few ideas, a few things that we normally tend to look at when we do audits. Hopefully that will help some of you guys. Then we'll go through a few more things that we look at from an agency perspective, and then we'll open up for questions if you've got time at the end. So the first one, quite an obvious one, are your campaign settings correct? So what we tend to find quite a few times is because of incorrect campaign settings in PPC, people are spending money in countries where they don't even want to advertise. One recent account that I audited, they were spending 25% of their current spend in countries where they did not want to advertise, which is quite a huge chunk of money. And also, don't forget the basics. Especially with the introduction of PMAX, people have started to forget about the basics. Keyword optimization, that's still around. People can still optimize keywords. You can still bid more or less on keywords. Search queries, and adding in negative keywords. Again, that's something that people have stopped looking at these days. Whenever we audit accounts, people don't tend to add these in as much as they used to. In negative keywords, again, something that we've noticed a lot in recent account audits that we have done, that people don't tend to look at negative keywords and add them in as much as they used to. Partly because of PMAX, but also partly because people think that automation is taking care of everything as well. And adding in new keywords, again, quite an obvious thing. People have been doing this since PPC has been around, but it seems to be something that people are missing out these days. Targeting the correct devices. Again, quite an obvious one. However, we've noticed quite a few times you might be advertising a mobile app, but you're trying to advertise on different platforms where people can't download that app. Or your website might not be functioning as well on tablets, but you're spending a chunk of money on tablets. Your conversion rates might be low on tablets. Scheduling ads for the correct time. One recent account that I audited, every night they had a website update that used to last 2 hours from 2 till 4 p.m., so 2 till 4 a.m. But in that time, they used to actually spend quite a chunk of money. All of that traffic was going on a dead page. Don't believe everything Google tells you. If you speak to anyone agency side, they'll tell you that Google talk a lot of rubbish, to choose my words wisely. Google will tell you a lot of things, but Google are interested in making money. That's what Google are interested in. And if you take Google's advice just plainly and just follow it as they say, Google will tell you to apply AAR, for example, which is automated applied recommendations. I see someone nodding his head there. I've seen so many accounts where people do that and they end up wasting so much money. Recently, I've heard, this is not on the slides because I've only heard about it yesterday or the day before, Google have recently started to auto-apply conversion tracking, which means that you're actually double counting your conversions, which means if you have automation applied on your account, you're actually double tracking conversions. Google thinks you're doing really well, and you end up spending double the amount of money. But in fact, you're actually only getting half of the conversions that Google is actually reporting. Let the data lead the way. So around the time when I first joined the market many years ago, someone said that, do I ever listen to the hippo in the room? So the highest paid person. Because people tend to lead quite a bit with emotion, especially business owners, because they might think that there's a product that they really like in their business, that they really want to push. And some of you may have experienced this as well, where there's one product in your business that is your highlight product that should be doing really well, but it's not doing really well. There may be various different reasons for this, but there'll be other products that are doing really well, but because emotionally you want to push this one product, you'll neglect all these other products that are doing really well. So let the data lead the way. There's many ways of how to look at the data, but the best way to look at the data for you will be the way that you understand the data. It's going to be different for every single person. Before we even do that, though, what data are you actually looking at? Recently, again, I audited a different account, and the conversion tracking that they were actually looking at wasn't even reporting the correct conversions. So it's important that you're looking at the correct data, and the data that's important to you will be unique to every single business. So for most retailers, obviously revenue is going to be quite an important thing to track. ROI or cost of sale, depending on how you actually look at your business, that's going to be quite an important thing to track. And also, what tools are you using to actually track this, report on this data? What I've seen a few times when auditing accounts again is sometimes when people are outsourcing, in fact, I was speaking to someone earlier, and sometimes when people are outsourcing their PPC, they know what figure is going out, they might know what figure overall is coming back in, but they don't know where all that revenue is coming from, what keywords are actually working, what campaigns are working. So it's very important for you to have the right reporting tools in place and for you to actually know exactly where you're spending each penny. In PPC, it's very easy to actually see where each penny that you spend is actually going. So it's very important for you to actually know that. Is your targeting correct? Are you targeting the correct people, the correct age, the correct gender, the correct location, the correct time as well? So again, what I've seen when auditing accounts is people are actually targeting locations where, in fact, one of our franchisee accounts, they were targeting some locations when we took over the account where they don't actually have any franchisees. So there was no one to actually be able to service their potential customers. Age, again, there's so many accounts that we do look at where there's a chunk of money that's been wasted on an age group which will never actually buy their product. So as business owners, obviously you'll always know who your audience are. Most businesses tend to do a study internally where they know who their audience is. And it's all of this data can be applied into your account. Is your PPC working in isolation? This is quite a big one where a lot of people will outsource to one PPC agency, maybe one SEO agency, all these different agencies, and they don't have an overall marketing plan that they've actually made in-house. They've just told these guys, you drive business, you drive business, you drive business, you drive business. All of them might be driving a lot of sales, but what is the actual overall business plan? PPC, SEO, email marketing, all of these when working together, can actually work really, really well. But that strategy has to come from the client internally, I think most of the time, because no one will know your business and your goals more than yourself. The agency can help you develop this and take it further, but no one will understand this better than you do. Testing, again, quite a big one, where people may be testing things in their account. 9 times out of 10, people who actually set up tests will actually be tracking what's happening with them tests. So they've set up a test 5 months ago, and then someone will ask, how's that test going that we added in the account 5 months ago? Oh, no idea, let me go check. So I think it's very important to actually have something in place to be tracking the testing that you're doing. And again, this comes back to reporting, because a lot of reports can be set up where you don't need to have that much manual intervention then in terms of actually reporting on the testing that you've got in place. So what I'm going to go through is some common agency mistakes. Again, not pinpointing anyone, but just things that we've seen in accounts where, as an e-commerce brand, some things that you should be aware of. Not understanding the goal of PPC. Again, this comes back to having the overall marketing goal and having a specific goal for PPC. Sometimes PPC isn't there just to drive conversions and sales. Sometimes it's there for brand awareness as well. But as numerous people, and I'm one of them, as numerous people, PPC people tend to focus on the numbers and say, okay, we've put this in, we've taken this out. Branding is a totally different campaign type, and it needs to be set up differently. But it's very important for the PPC people who are managing your account, whether that be internally, externally, to be able to understand what the goal of all the different campaigns is. Having a plan of how to actually execute that. So sometimes someone might say, okay, this is the goal of our PPC, this is what we want to achieve. They'll be like, yeah, that's fine. We'll go, and then go away and execute something, come back, and you've actually not achieved what you wanted to achieve. So it's important for you to have a plan and for you to understand that plan of what you actually want to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, and how you're going to track these. One-size-fits-all approach. Again, there might be similar websites. There might be two different jewelry companies, for example. But what will work for one company will not work for another company. It's very important for everyone to have their own individual campaign type and for their own individual goals in place. That's why simply copying a campaign or a group of campaigns over from one brand to another, even if you've got two brands that do exactly the same thing, the results may be very, very different for both of them. It used to be quite common in the iGaming sector back in the day, where there used to be one structure that pretty much every single iGaming brand actually had in the whole industry. I think over time that has changed quite a bit because people have realized, oh yeah, what works for them does not necessarily work for me. Not understanding what the client really wants. This is quite a common one where people will have a conversation initially and then afterwards there's no regular contact where the agency still understands what the client wants. And what the client wants can change quite often. 1 month they might have one goal, but then 6 months later they might have a very different goal. So it's important to have regular meetings or why they want it. Again, sometimes it's actually the opposite, where the client may want something, but what they want isn't what's the best for their business. So it's important to get more people in the room sometimes to try and have that open discussion to say, okay, this is what you actually want in your business. You want to try and drive loads of sales for this product, but why? I think it's important to ask that question sometimes, why? Because if there isn't a reason of why they want to do something, and it's just a whim, then again, it comes back to that hippo theory. And now following the data, I mentioned this earlier, but it applies both sides, on agency side and client side. So I think I'm almost out of time. Michelle? Yeah. So we do have to stop here, but there's a lot more common mistakes that we do find in accounts. And if you do come and see me later on, where our stand is in the other room called Sutton. So if you come over there, and I can go through some more mistakes, but more importantly, I think every single account will have different issues with their account. So rather than just saying, okay, these are all the common mistakes, it's important to have a look at every account individual and work out what the issues are with that account. Also, we're actually creating quite a few retail white papers at the moment. One of them is about how different, I think the working title is Don't Always Believe Your Mate Dave, because it's about how different people, different things will actually work. And one person might say that this is what works for my business and think that should work for your business. And especially when it comes to people who you know in a similar industry, they'll think this works for me, it should definitely work for you. But that's not always the case. And that's me, but I think I've got a few minutes for questions. So if anybody does have any questions.
It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on, initially your thoughts on PMax, and B, the comparison you would put them against like standard or smart shopping campaigns and how you found them perform.
Yeah. So did everyone hear that question? Yeah. So PMax, something I did probably mention earlier is PPC has probably changed more in the last 2 years than it changed in the 10 years prior to that. And PMax is one of them big things. PMax initially was a massive pain in the rear. It's because it took away all the control that we used to have previously. More recently, PMax has actually given us more and more data now, and every few days we find, okay, they're giving you this bit of data now as well. In terms of PMax versus smart shopping versus standard shopping, we run the PMAX versus standard shopping tests all the time. For every client, we find some are different. More recently, we're actually running a test right now where we're testing both of them together versus having all the PMAX previously and looking at the results that way. And we're finding, based on the very initial data, we're finding having them work together versus having only one seems to be working better. But like I said, it's a case-by-case basis. For every single company, it's going to be a little bit different.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. That was really good. Thank you.